welcome back to my channel. For today's video I wanted to do a look that I pretty much generally go to every day. Like when I wake up and I have no idea what to do, this is a look that I always do. It's really simple, it's pretty easy. It has a mix of some drugstore products in there and some not. So it's a pretty good mixture of products. So if you are interested in this look, just keep on watching. I generally don't use primer, so I'm just going to jump right into foundation. And the foundation that I'm going to be using today is actually the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. This is in the shade Soft Ivory, so it's the light one. This stuff is really good. I think it's like $7 and some Canadian at Walmart. So if you guys are looking for a really good foundation and that's under $10 and that works really well, it would definitely be this. So I'm just gonna disperse them on my face. The good thing about this foundation is that it comes with like the little doe foot applicator, so it's kind of nice that you don't have to like empty it out on a sponge. You can just put it directly on your face. I find that a little bit easier to use. So to start blending all of this in, I'm just going to use the Morphe Y7 brush. After this, I'm just going to go in again and just kind of dab it in with a blender. So I find it just kind of like pushes it in a little more and gets rid of some streaks that this may have left behind. I find some foundations are better used with like a brush and then some are better using a sponge. I think it just depends on the consistency of the foundation. Like I feel like some of the thinner ones might go on a little better with a beauty blender and some of the thicker ones may get blended out better with this, but I don't know, it's really up to you, it's your preference. But for this particular foundation, I kind of like to do both. So I'm just going to go in and just apply a little bit more. Just kind of in the center of my face. Like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend it out with a Real Techniques blender. Now that is done, I'm going to go in with some concealer, and for today's look, which I use all the time, is I actually have a little sample. I think I got this in an Ipsy bag once, so it's actually the It Cosmetics by Under Eye. It's a full coverage anti-aging waterproof concealer. I just recently started using this again. Like I found it in my little like makeup drawer and I actually really like it. It's kind of tacky, but where I have kind of dark under eyes, like I find the skin around my eyes, even my upper eyelid, it's a little darker than the rest of my skin tone, so I find this stuff really helps. I'm actually going to look into getting the bigger tube of this, although this is really lasting a really long time. This is in the shade Neutral Medium. So I'm just going to put some on my finger and just kind of dab it under my under eye. I like putting concealer on my top lid as well. Again, that might be like where I find it's a little darker. I think it's just like a feel better thing. Just to kind of brighten it up a little bit. I know this is a concealer for your under eyes, but I'm actually just going to put a little bit more down my nose. And a little bit right here and a little bit right there. So again, I'm just going to blend this out with the Real Techniques blender. Now we're going to go in with some powder, and for the powder I'm going to be using the Maybelline Fitme Loose Finishing Powder in the shade 05 Fair. So I talked about this in my last video, the one where I did like a bold lip, and this is actually my favorite drugstore loose powder. Actually, it may be my favorite all-time loose powder, and this is a really good alternative if you really want something affordable because it's really fine milled. So this is a really great option. And for this, I'm going to go in with a more, not as spongy sponge, like it's a little more stiff. I kind of like this for powder. So I'm literally just going to like put that in there like that, and I'm going to bake my under eyes. And I usually just put a little bit on my forehead and a little bit on my chin. So while that's doing its thing, I'm going to go in with some brows. And for brows, I'm going to be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade in the shade Taupe. So I'm just going to go in with a little liner brow brush, and I'm going to start to fill in my eyebrows. Okay, so now that the brows are done, I'm just going to go in and wipe off the big powder that I put on. And I am using a Morphe R3 brush. You can really use any brush. It's just to kind of swipe the powder off. But I just find it easier to use a brush that kind of is tapered at the end, just because it's easier to kind of get under my eye and by my nose. So next is bronzer, and today I'm going to be using the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer in the shade Medium Deep, and it just kind of looks like this. I find it's a really good shade just for light skin tones. I know it says medium deep. There's probably a lighter one than this. I'm not really sure, but I find this one's perfect. A Sigma Small Contour F05 brush, and I'm just going to be using this to kind of hollow up my cheeks and on my forehead. And I'm just going to put a little bit on my nose. Time for some blush, and I'm going to be using the Milani Baked Powder Blush in the shade Dolce Pink. So it kind of looks like this. Again, I used this in my last video, and it's a great blush. I really like it. So to apply this, I am using the Sigma Powder Blush brush in the number F10. So it's just a basic blush brush. So I'm just applying this to the apple of my cheeks. And the palette that I'm using today, which is pretty much what I use every day, is no shocker, the Jaclyn Hill palette. I just find this palette is like the best for everyday use. It just kind of has everything in it that you would need. Like, it has your transition shades, it has your inner corner highlights at the top or your brow bone, it has a black in the corner, it has some pops of color down here, and it also has your warmer tone colors, some cool colors, and a lot of shimmers. So this palette is literally like great for every day. I take it everywhere I go, and I pretty much use it every day. The first transition shade, I'm going to be using the Morphe E23 brush. And what I like to do is I actually like to blend these two shades right here together just to kind of create my first transition shade. So now I'm going to go in with the same two colors, and I'm just going to kind of dust some on my lower lash line. So now I'm going to go in with a Sigma Tapered Blending E40 brush. It looks like this, and I am actually going to put this shade here. It's kind of like a darker version of the two at the top. I'm just going to place this in my transition shade as well, just to deepen it up. And I will be putting some of this on my lower lash as well. So now I will be going in with a deeper shade, and I'm going to go in with the Morphe E17 brush, and I am going to pop this shade right here. Oh. this shade right here, just kind of in the outer corner of my eyelids. I'm just going to soften that up with the Sigma brush that I used before. I'm actually going to go in with this darker shade right here and just kind of do the same thing and just deepen it up a little bit. And again, I'm going to soften it back up with this brush here. And I'm going to go in with the same shade I just used and put some on my lower lash line, just to kind of smoke it out a little bit. And if you want to take it a step further, you could also go in with the shade right here. I think I'm going to do it, and you can just literally put that in the very outer corner of your lid with the same brush. I'm going to go in with a lighter shade just with my finger, and I'm going to just kind of apply that in the first half of my eye. And that shade is going to be this one right here that's kind of underneath that mustard yellow shade. So I'm just going to literally apply that like right here on my lid. I'm going to start on the middle, and I'm just going to blend this out. It's going to look messy at first, but you can go back in with a brush and you can just clean it all up. So now that I have it down, I'm going to go in again with that E40 brush that I used to kind of clean up everything, and I'm just going to kind of go along the crease just to kind of blend the edges together. Next, I like to line my eyes with one of these 3 shadows at the bottom. I kind of like using shadow rather than like an actual eyeliner pencil or a liquid liner with a angled, what is this? A small angle E65 by Sigma, just because I kind of like the non-harshness of like a pure black line. I kind of just like the softness that the shadow kind of gives. So I'm actually going to go in with not the black, but I'm going to go in with, let's do the brown. So I'm going to go in with this brown shade here, the one that's right before the dark green shade. And I'm just going to pop my brush in there and literally just line my lash line, just to kind of give it some more definition. And I'm going to go in with that same shade and just kind of put a little bit down here. The last shades that I'm going to be using out of this palette is for my inner corner and my brow bone. So I like to mix these 2 top shades up here. I just find it gives like a nice shimmery shade when I mix the 2. So for this, I'm just going to be using the Real Techniques detailer brush. Again, this one is so perfect just to kind of pop color on your inner corners and under your brow. I find it's the perfect little shape to do that with. And a little bit up here. Alright, so now that that's done, I am going to go in with some mascara, and I'm going to be using my absolute favorite mascara, and luckily it's from the drugstore. So this is the Maybelline the Colossal Big Shot mascara, and this is in the shade, doesn't really say, but it's the blackest one. So I'm just gonna do probably about 2 coats of mascara. So the very last thing that I'm going to do to my eyes is I am going to apply a lighter shade in my waterline. So technically I should have done this before mascara, but it doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to be using is the NYX Wonder pencil in the shade Light. So I just picked this up at the drugstore, which sold NYX in my area. So this here, apparently you can use this as a couple of different things. You can use it as a concealer, an eye brightener, a reverse lip liner in one. So that's pretty cool. I just find I like using more peachy shades in my waterline versus white, just because it's a little more natural. It's kind of just like a lighter version of my skin tone. So I'm literally just going to apply this in my waterline. It kind of brightens up my eye a little bit. Once that is done, I go in with highlighter last, and the reason I do my highlighter last is just because I like to see everything done first, and I like to use my highlighter as like the last step just to kind of tie everything together and give it that last little glow. So I'm actually going to be using the Anastasia Amrezy highlighter palette here, and this here brush is by Sigma, and it's a high cheekbone highlighter in the number F03. So this one's a really nice dense one if you really want to structure your highlighter out. So I'm just going to brush it in there, and I'm going to apply it to my cheekbones. And my nose. Above my brows. A little bit on my Cupid's bow. And a little bit on my chin. Okay, so the last step in this look is lips, and I will be using a lipstick from the drugstore. So this one here is by Maybelline, and it is in the shade 450 Romantic Rose, and it's almost gone. Like, it literally, I'm gonna have to start taking it out with my finger. I've used it that much. This is like by far one of my favorite pinky nudes, like, of all time. It's not really matte, and it's not like a gloss, but it's kind of like in between. Yeah, so you can kind of see. Maybe I can use this. It's like a really nice pinky tone that would be good for anything. I almost forgot setting spray, and this one is new to me. So this one is actually the MAC Prep and Prime Fix Plus, but it's the Goldlite edition. It's the shimmery one, and oh my god, like, I love this so much. I like it more so than the normal one, than the original one. So this one just kind of gives like a nice little sheen if you like a glowy look, but that's not too done. Like, it's obviously not going to do what a highlighter does or anything like that, but it literally just kind of sets your face and gives you this subtle sparkle layer, but not really sparkly, more like shimmer glow, I guess you could say. And let it dry. This is the finished look. This is literally what I wear every day, whether I'm going to work, whether I'm going out for the day with Joseph, whether I have to literally go anywhere, which I feel like I need makeup for. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like it, please subscribe. Bear with me. I know I'm completely new. I know I have to work on some things, but I'm learning as I go. So I just want to thank you guys so much if you made it through this video thus far. Just thank you so much for